Hi again, I'm Bob Burg with another episode of Go Giver Influencers Facebook Live. Today's episode is Influential Civility. More than that, it's do you show up with civility? And that's what our guest is going to touch upon today. And you're going to really enjoy this. But let me ask you, do you show up with civility? Are you that person who during Thanksgiving dinner in the States, Thanksgiving and other holidays in other countries, of course, or during the holiday dinners or at a social event, or maybe even online, are you the person who shows up bringing civility to the conversation? So in other words, when the others are arguing and insulting and ranting and raving, are you the person who kind of brings people together and edifies and calms? Do you bring that spirit of civility with you when you show up? Now, of course, there are other ways of showing up. Sometimes people show up as nice, value-based people. Sometimes people show up as bullies. We all know those people. We probably worked for them. And we may have done what they wanted at times because we were scared of them. But once we weren't working for them anymore, or once positions changed, they certainly had no influence over us, did they? Sometimes we show up as confident when we're feeling good about ourselves. And sometimes we may not want to show up because we're not feeling confident, but we show up anyway. How do we show up when we're not feeling confident, but still show up confident, but do so authentically? Because even when not feeling that way, we still need to show up confidently. Now, confidently, not arrogantly, confidently with humility, but we can show up confidently even if we don't feel confident. Now, we've all heard the saying, and I don't like this saying, but we've heard the saying, fake it till you make it. Well, okay, sometimes that's appropriate, but the term itself kind of sounds inauthentic. I remember a speaker I once heard, she was a good friend of mine, she and her husband, her name is Lisa Jane McGinnis, and she's from Australia. And she used to say, instead of fake it till you make it, how about faith it till you make it? Now, she came from a religious background and a religious context, and that's fine. I mean, if you can have faith in a higher power who you can kind of draw that confidence from while you're still getting there until you make it, great. But even if not religious, just maybe it's having faith that things work out as they're supposed to, or faith because you've done it before, or faith because you've worked hard at it. And even though things aren't going where you want it, you can still faith it till you make it. How do you show up? Well, that's something to think about. Meanwhile, Jan Goss-Gibson says, don't just show up in life, show up well. And she's truly one of America's experts in personal and professional excellence. Jan is CEO of Civility Consulting, a global business training and consulting firm, and creator of the Show Up Well system for professionals. She's an award-winning speaker and author. Her best-known book is titled Protocol Power, 21 Days to Professional Polish. And Shannon, of course, will, as she always does so wonderfully, she'll post the links to that and everything, Jan, in the discussion window. Jan was recently named America's #1 master confidence strategist. I love that. She's highly regarded as an authority in first impression management. A sample of her clients include GE, Texas Sun and Shade, NXP, Adiza Communications, Mary Kay, the University of Texas at Austin, and Business Suites. She's a graduate of the Protocol School of Washington in Washington, D.C. She began the Austin School of Protocol in 2007, launched nationwide as Civility Consulting in 2011. Jan and her clients have been featured on ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox networks nationwide. Jan's website is showupwell.com. Hi, Jan.
Hello, Bob. What a pleasure to be with one of my heroes today.
Oh, well, likewise, very likewise. And you and I have been friends on the internet for a while now.
Yeah.
You're one of what I call the awesome Austins. It's a group of,
I like that. I'll take that. I like that.
A group of Austin-based entrepreneurs, and you have just you and Sherry and Lisa and Renee and Megan. And
that's my tribe.
Right. And all from Austin, great entrepreneurs who've done amazing, really amazing things. And also, you know who else is part of your tribe? I don't know if you know her, but Kendrick Shope. She's actually from Alabama, but Sherry Matthews said she's one of the Austins as well. Kendrick's a great entrepreneur and wonderful friend.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, so how did it come for you to be on? Well, I was familiar with your work, but Kathy, my awesome business partner, met you when she was in Austin, and she was at the Novita Spa, which is owned by Megan DiMartino, great friend. And Kathy, when she got home, she called me and she said, "You have got to have Jan Goss on the phone." I mean, not on the phone, on the show. And let me repeat that. Let me go backwards on that. She said, "You have got to have Jan Goss-Gibson on your show. She is absolutely unbelievable. You're going to love her." And I said, "Yeah, great idea. I'd been thinking about you anyway." And what a great time. When Kathy suggests something, you just do it because you know it's right. So I want to hear the beginning of your story, because you have sort of it's kind of different, right? It's not the most.
It is.
Yeah, tell us about it and about you.
Yes. I was born, Bob, in the middle of Europe, in Munich, Germany, to a military family. My dad was a colonel in the army, and we moved 21 times in 18 years.
Wow.
So I had to learn how to show up well. That was survival for me. And when I was in junior high, my mom put me in what we called back then charm school. I'm aging myself. Yes, it was called charm school back then, the cotillion thing. And she made me go through twice because I think she thought it just didn't quite take the first time.
But I've got to tell you, and please forgive me for interrupting. But do not look.
That's how we flow. That's how we flow.
Don't look nearly old enough to ever have been in something called charm school.
Yeah, well, I love you for saying that. And trust me, all the miles are there. Every single mile along the road is there. But somewhere, Bob, between the things that I learned in a military family and charm school, I discovered that navigating through life in a kind, gracious way made me happy. And it just made things better all around. And then add to that, I have always been attracted to business. I have been an entrepreneur since I was a small child. I studied international business and then went on to the Protocol School of Washington, D.C. to become certified in business etiquette and international protocol. So in 2007, voila, I created a business doing what I love, helping people show up well.
Okay, I love that, and I want to talk about showing up well because I just love that showing up well. I mean, it seems like a lot of good things can happen when you show up well, but I always love to go back to definitions and premises. So, what do you mean showing up well? What does that mean to
you? Good question. Well, when we are very best on a daily basis, when we're growing and learning and continuing to expand and really just explore these beautiful lives that we've been blessed with. When we lay our head down at night and we know that we have consciously and intentionally given our personal best for that day, this produces three things. It produces freedom from fear, peace of mind, and unshakable confidence, because you know you did the best you could with the knowledge that you had that day. And you're open and willing to learn what you don't yet know so that tomorrow can be even better. Mm-hmm. So I call that showing up well, and it has great benefits.
Okay, and so civility, as that relates to showing up well, How is that important? I mean, intuitively, I think we all know it is, but how does that add to that confidence, to that unshakable confidence, that peace of mind, everything that goes along with showing up well?
Good question. You're full of good questions, Bob Burg.
I am
Well,
full of it.
you're full of something is what I heard. So I think it was questions is what everybody said. Pretty sure that's what they said. According to the Institute for Civility in Government, and I know right now that sounds like a little bit of an oxymoron in our political climate, but they have a great definition for civility. So let me just kind of start there. Civility is claiming and caring for one's identity, needs, and beliefs without degrading someone else's in the process. So it begins on the premise of really politeness, although it's way more than just being polite. It's about disagreeing without disrespecting. Mm-hmm. And finding common ground. And really, it's about us listening past our own preconceptions. So it's hard work, Bob. This civility stuff is hard work. You have to stay present, even when you're with people that maybe you have deep-rooted and fierce disagreements with. That's showing up well.
Yeah. Well, and that's a sign when you can have disagreements with people. I saw, I don't know if it was a meme, but it was just a tweet, I guess. And it was two high school kids. And one had on Jan, are you still there? And by the way.
Yes.
Okay. And you know what? Somebody, if you don't mind, put in the comment section if you want to make sure you're seeing and hearing both Jan and me. Okay.
Good catch, Bob.
Thank you. My mom would be horrified if she was watching this and she heard me use I and me wrong. And just make sure you can hear and see us well. Yes, we can see and hear you both. Okay, so it's on my end with my computer. So I was going to say, so it's on Twitter, and it's two high school kids. One of them was wearing a shirt that said Ted Cruz, and the other was wearing a shirt that said Beto O'Rourke. And they were hugging, or they had their arms around each other and said, "We're still friends. It doesn't matter."
Oh,
and I thought,
that.
That's neat. How much can we learn from our children, right? I mean, that's what we want. We want to be able to disagree, and that's okay, but to do so in a way that's civilized, and that's agreeable, and respects people. And as you know, to the degree we respect others, that's the degree we're going to get that back.
Exactly. Well said.
Thank you. But I mean, really, that's you. That is what you teach, and we need that. I want to just look at the discussion window right now to make sure that I'm seeing people who came on. I don't know if I said hi to Scott earlier. Scott Gilbert, hello. If I didn't say hi to you earlier, Jeff West. Now he's a fellow Texan, but he's from Houston, and Jeff has a wonderful book out himself. And he is an amazing salesperson, sales leader, now speaking on sales. Let's see.
Wonderful.
Dallas Duchin there. Dallas, did I pronounce it? It's either Duchin or Duchin, and I so apologize if I did not pronounce that right. Mark Matthews is on with us. Monique Coquette Tremblay is with us. Hello. Barb Tomlin joined. Hello, Barb. And Andrew Parker. He's on. There's Megan DiMartino. She joined us as well. We talked about your spa, Megan. So
it's a great place to go. It's where I go for my facials. She's amazing.
Yeah. And let's see. And if you have any questions for Jan, hey, now's the time to ask. We have about 15 minutes left. So if you have any questions for her, by all means ask. Jan, I want to ask you what you mean by the rich life, because I think it's an acronym, right?
It is an acronym.
Okay.
It absolutely is. This is something that I came up in the wee hours of the night when I'm thinking about how to just help capsulize messaging. And when I think of a rich life, here's what it means to me. It's a life of respect. It's a life of integrity. It's a life of care and compassion, and a life of happiness, Bob. We were created to be happy. It just amazes me how many people go through life and they are miserable. And that is not the plan. So I believe when we have respect for God, ourselves, and others, when we walk in integrity, and I love how my friend Lisa Nichols describes integrity. She says, it's when the tongue in your mouth and the tongue in your shoe are going in the same direction.
I love her.
Isn't that cute? So it's really it's when our words and our behavior agree. They have to be integrated. We want to walk in integrity. And then care and compassion, when we add that in our life, we're going to be happy. And to me, Bob, that equals a rich life.
Oh my gosh, what a great takeaway that was. Wow, thank you so much. Now, one of your specialties is in making a great first impression. Now, first impressions aren't everything, but you can see everything from there. Okay, it's close enough to everything, because first impressions are powerful.
True.
And I think, isn't that the halo effect, right? Once someone makes, the first impression you have of someone, now you start measuring everything, but it's kind of based on that. So that first impression is a great one. Wonderful. You almost can't do anything wrong. If that impression's a bad one, yeah, you can bring it back, but it's a lot more difficult. Unwrap that for us, if you would.
Yeah, very difficult to undo a bad first impression. So it's super important to do everything that we can to show up well and to make our very best first impression. Your impression is what I call your handprint that you leave on another person's life. Your impression either causes them to leave your presence saying, wow, I'm impressed, or I'm not so impressed. It's an impression one way or the other. So the beginning of our first impression is our appearance. People notice our appearance from far off. And this is why it's important. Things like our posture, our body language, how we dress, we want it to reflect who we are. Do you want your dress to say, I don't really care? You only have 5 seconds to get this right. So the second aspect of our first impression is our presence. And your presence is the way you make people feel. I love Maya Angelou. Boy, we lost a good one when we lost her. And I love how she said that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So your appearance and your presence are the beginning of your first impression. And then it moves on to, it is our body language. It's the way we acknowledge others. It's our visual contact. It's how we introduce ourselves, your facial expressions, your smile, and even your handshake, the way you physically connect. All of these play a part in our first impression.
Now, you have what you call 52 strategies, one for each week of the year. Can you take us through the first few? Or any three that you'd like?
Sure.
Or 4 or 5.
Sure. Well, I like to start with what I call the top 3, and there are 52 of them, and they're all what I say delicious. They'll all help you show up well in life. But the top 3 are: be authentic, be present, and be prepared. Be authentic. Don't try to be someone else. This is so tempting especially when we see people we admire. I mean, I look at you, Bob, there are so many things about you that I aspire to be like. And that's a good thing. Like aspiring to be like the good that we see in other people, that's awesome. But I can never be you, Bob, and you can't be me. That spot is already taken. So really being authentic, and this takes time. You have to spend time with you to figure out who you are. It takes time to develop a relationship with yourself, just like it does to develop a relationship with someone else. So being authentic, who you were created to be, that is the best way to show up in life. And then being present. How many of you out there know you can be in a room and not be in the room? You can be in a conversation and not actually be in the conversation. So be present in the moment where you are. This is part of showing up well. And then be prepared. And this could be something as simple as, you guys, listen to the weather. If it's going to rain, take your umbrella. You're going to show up better if you're not soaking wet. So it could be something that simple, or it may be preparing for a big meeting. So show up prepared. If you're going to show up well.
Yeah, I love it. Now, I want to ask you about a few things, if I may. You have boot camps on this, which sounds interesting. Tell us about that. How to and learning more about it.
Okay. I'm in love with boot camp. I just wrote boot camp over this past summer, and I told my husband, Rick, I said, if no one came through boot camp, I wrote it for me, because it absolutely catapulted me to a different level of confidence. So the Show Up Well boot camp is really a way that you can try me on. It's only a month worth of coaching. It's 4 weeks, and it's designed for high functioning business women. I love you guys. Enlightened men are welcome to come on board as well. But I really designed it for women professionals and leaders. And I packed 40 years, Bob, of confidence strategies into 4 weeks. So it's not for babies. Boot camp is not for babies. This is for people who are already successful, you're already doing well, and you really just want to shore up your confidence. Life can happen, and we all hit a wall. So it's really about just shoring up our unshakable confidence.
That makes sense. And Shannon, of course, as you were saying it, she posted the link to that, so everyone check that out. Now, your best known book, Protocol Power: 21 Days to Professional Polish, and I know that Shannon has promoted that, but and you have an ebook, First Impression Dating. Of course, on a date, first impression, very otherwise you don't get that second date.
That's right.
But now you have a soon-to-be released book, very provocative title, if I may suggest.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
It's brought a tiny bit of controversy.
Tell
yes,
us the
I
title,
do.
Jan. We want to hear about it.
It is a little provocative, and I'll tell you what people are saying about it, because I've obviously had some people read it before it's going to be released. So my ebook that's coming out in December is called Bedroom Etiquette: How to Show Up Well Behind Closed Doors. And it's been described as steamy, practical, and a much needed message for this generation. So it's coming in December. Bedroom Etiquette. It's about bringing sacredness, that sacred space, which honestly, that's what got me started on this, Bob, is I was angry and I was feeling like, you know what? There's nothing sacred anymore. Nothing is sacred. And to me, my relationship with my husband it's sacred. It's between us and it's special. And so I began to see how the principles of showing up well in the marketplace that I've been teaching for the last 40 years, they're the very same principles of connection, innovation, nurturing, respect, all the things that we would do for our very special clients. these same principles pay big dividends behind closed doors. So if you're in a relationship, you want to get a copy of Bedroom Etiquette. And I actually have it available at showupwell.com. You can go ahead and there's a pre-sale going on and you'll be the very first to get the copy.
Okay, very good. Let's see a few comments. Barb Tomlin wrote RESPECT all the way. That was when you were talking about respect and how important it is. Kathy Tajanel wrote, I love Megan's Navita Spa. I had a fabulous facial there a couple weeks ago.
She shows up well, Bob.
Yep. Let's see, Pamela Good, and she is out in Colorado, and she has a story behind her. Just not time to get into it, but boy, she's such a wonderful person. She wrote, everyone brings their individuality and as part of humanity, bring our strengths. And she wrote to you, yes. Thank you so much. Let's see, Maria Chin wrote, I want to hear about the book and how to get it, Bedroom Etiquette. Okay, good. You can go to that site, Maria. Wonderful.
Showupwell.com. Go to showupwell.com.
Yeah, and Shannon's been posting that, so it's definitely there. Shannon takes such good care of everybody. She's amazing. Okay, so I had one other thing I wanted to ask you about, and this is just advice for when going to, and this kind of, this is all about showing up well, and it's about all the things you talk about, but we're going to kind of bring it together because this can be intimidating sometimes for people, but going to a networking event where, you're there for business and people kind of gather together and most people are just sort of handing out their business cards and giving their big elevator speeches and blah, 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 blah. How do you take, and books have been written about this, but how do you take your system and your advice for that person who's attending these kinds of meetings? And by the way, it could be a charity event, it could be your kid's ball game, it could be anything.
Absolutely. But, Sure. It's when humans gather, that's when the good stuff takes place. And we need to know how to show up well in those moments. So we already talked a little about your appearance and your presence. And then let me give you some practical things. When you go to an event, when you want to connect with people, look for groups of 3 or more. Don't ever break into a group of 2. It's too personal.
Great.
And then next, about business cards, please let me plant the seed in your mind. Oh my goodness, please don't pass out business cards like your dealing cards. If you want to do that, go to Las Vegas, because it's what happens to your cards is they go into file 13. It's like they go straight to the trash. Business cards are what I call permission-based. So if Bob and I meet at an event and I just love hanging with him, then I might say something like, Bob, I've loved connecting with you. May I give you my business card? And may I have yours as well? Do you see how that's so much more civilized? It's showing up so much better than here's my card, here's my card, here's my card. So business cards are permission-based. And when you hand out your card, be sure it's facing the other person. Don't make them have to twirl it around to see who you are. One tiny little, what I call 2-degree shift, just helps you show up a little bit better.
What wonderful wisdom you have. You've just provided us such wonderful wisdom today, Jan. Thank you so much. Jan Goss-Gibson is the CEO of Civility Consulting. It's a global business training and consulting firm, and she's the creator of the Show Up Well system for professionals. Her books include Protocol Power, 21 Days to Professional Polish, First Impression Dating, which is an ebook, and of course, her soon-to-be-released ebook, Bedroom Etiquette, How to Show Up Well Behind Closed Doors. Shannon has been posting the links and everything. She also has a blog. Her site is showupwell.com, where you can find everything Jan. Hey, if you haven't picked up John David Mann's and my book, The Go-Giver Influencer, pick it up and give it a read. We think it's our best one yet of the 3. So just go to thegogiver.com. You can read the first couple chapters for free to see if you like it. Hey, by the way, I am on Instagram now. Shannon, if you don't mind putting the link to that, and with Shannon's help and with Leslie's help, we're doing a video a day. I'm calling it influence and impact 1 minute or less videos, because we talk about influence and impact in, you've got it, 1 minute or less, because Instagram doesn't allow us to do any more than a minute, but that's okay, because I don't really have that much to say, but we can do a little bit every day.
Right.
Hey, Kathy, Tay Janelle and I have our next Go Giver Entrepreneurs Academy coming up in January. Spend 2 days with Kathy and me, not I, me. And for that, just go to gogiverentrepreneurs.com and so forth and so on, etc., etc., etc. Hey, we won't be having a show next Thursday. We're doing a taping of a new course we're going to be putting out there, and so we have all these cameras coming into the house and people there, and me trying to do well reading off a teleprompter and all that other fun stuff. But we will be back soon after that, and until that time, I just want everybody to have a great time, and I want you to continue to show up well. And Jan, I want to thank you for showing up so well with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Listen, I do my best to be like my hero, Bob Burg. I do my best.
Stop it. And when I say stop it, I mean keep going, keep going. Hey, everyone, until we meet again, I'm Bob Burg saying make it a great day. See you again soon. Bye-bye.